Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I'm Dr. H, and no, I will not be alone tonight. I know it looks like it seems like it, but everybody is running a little bit late. But we will be going dark shortly. Tonight's topic is a little bit of a nail biter, but we're excited. Hey, Reggie. So we're excited about tonight's topic. It is about sexual fantasies, and obviously, Troy picked the topic. And so we're excited. I know I am. We've been talking about it in our group chat. And so it's going to be very interesting. I don't know if it's going to be what you think it's going to be, but it is going to be something that's going to have you to think. We talked about it briefly one time before, about a year ago when we first got started. I'm going to get Piff in here in a minute. Hey, Piff.
Hey.
And so looking forward to tonight's topic. Like I said, we talked about sexual fantasies before, but not on this level of what we're going to talk about it tonight. This is going to be a little bit interesting. I really don't know what direction it's going to go in, but we're going to see how this is going to ride out, especially with Troy. Just want to let y'all know as a heads up, he just finished. What is this thing called? It's some type of sex convention that was in the Northern Virginia area. So he was up in the DC area for a while at this conference, this convention or something that was going on. And so I'm sure he said in his own words, there was a lot of stimulation. I don't know how to take that, but I can say by the pictures that he posted, it was some stuff going on up in there. I don't know how to accept what this is that Horace Towns has going on in his life. But
Hey.
I just can't with you and this name today.
What name?
Sir. Right. Piff's face is my face right now because Horace Towns. Sir.
Yes.
Okay.
It's after dark.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
yes,
producer.
And I'm not gonna speak what your name says. Let's just play with it.
Not either.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Let's just play with it. Let's go ahead on and play with it.
No, I'm not even going.
Yeah. Right.
Piffy got a little Tony Braxton hair going, and she feeling some kind of way. Don't do that. Don't do that. I canceled all my plans to be here tonight, and we got Tony Braxton in the middle, acting like she ain't, on her bougie self.
With my bougie self.
Bougie self.
Tudor, what you had to drink today?
Nothing, man. I'm just
asking that. Like, there's something wrong with him.
I am. Boredom.
Oh.
Boredom.
You could have flew me out.
I'm in a hermit mode.
You could have flew me out.
Then that would have meant we would have had a date.
That's fine. We could have a date.
Then what is the definition of a date?
I was going to say we're going back to what we talked about a year ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. So for men,
actually, have you had a date before?
No. A date to him is dick at the end.
Oh, nah, bro. Okay, so we have not ever had a date.
Thank you.
We have not ever had a date, people. We've never had a date.
Let's clarify that right now.
There's never been a date. Never.
When I came to DC, she had a screaming.
No, never. No.
Yeah. Piff, you had a great evening with me. It wasn't a date, but Piff, don't do that. Now, when I flew to DC, you got You got the full experience.
We've never had a date.
No.
Hold on, people.
Dr. H, you're getting off the subject.
Hold please.
Did you not enjoy your time with me?
Hold please. People. Horace and I have never had a date.
Right. In Horace's definition of a date, let's be clear.
We've never had a date.
I wouldn't do that to Piff. Now, back to my question, Piff. Did you not enjoy my time in DC?
It was cool, yeah.
Nah, hell nah. Don't be trying to undersell me. Did you not enjoy our time together?
Horace, listen, let me be clear. You
Bro,
are
no.
amazing.
This what women don't do, Dr. H. Dr. H. She picked me up in $100,000 car, sunroof back, fly. Woo. Oh, it was quite. I felt like I might have needed to put out because she really rolled the red carpet out. Yeah, picked me up in $100,000.
You felt like you wanted to put out.
Yeah, it was just so nice. Like, oh, she just treated me so lavish. Then we went out, and then I took her out. But that's a whole nother story. We'll tell you that off air. We went out to dinner. DC is interesting. Virginia is interesting. So for a Florida boy, I just thought it was interesting.
So for you, what the epic moment was when I picked you up in my vehicle.
Yeah, spaceship.
Hey, Alan.
Hey, Alan Boo.
So
his epic moment was when I picked him up in my vehicle, and because I wasn't gonna let you sit there at the airport like.
And she had on leather like Eddie Murphy.
Now y'all know that Horace and Piff always got me going through this situation.
Hey, Dr. H, she had on the Eddie Murphy raw leather. I say, well, damn, Piff. Piff was looking like that baby. I said, okay. And she knew it too, so that's what made it interesting.
This conversation, just so y'all know, this conversation started because Horace Towns got on here telling Piff she looked like Toni Braxton. That is how this conversation started. Okay? He over here talking about she got her Toni Braxton on, and now we down. He just said she bougie, and now we down this road. I don't know how he got this. Do you have a Toni Braxton fantasy or something that we don't know about Horace?
Well, hey, listen, Toni has consistently been that baby. When you think of shortcuts, you think of Toni. And my dog up there wearing that thing. That's why she looked like Toni in that one video. See how she with the head to the side? When he didn't come home in that video, she waiting on the couch. Like, I know I'm cute. I'm just waiting for him to come through the door.
Listen,
she is bougie.
I'm not bougie. I have bougie tastes.
Right.
But all the things that I have that are bougie, guess who bought them?
Right. We had this conversation before. You work hard, you treat yourself to nice things, and that's the bottom line. Like, I don't know. But yeah, so tonight's topic, Troy's going to be on in a little bit, but tonight's topic is sexual fantasies. We talked about it briefly. Like, we kind of did an overview a year ago when we first started doing our After Dark talks. We had all kinds of stuff going on. We talked about some of everything, but tonight we're talking about sexual fantasies. Troy, like I said, has just come off of this wild trip he was on. And he was up in Northern Virginia, DC at this sex expo. It was a sexpo, and it was just all kinds of stuff. I don't know everything. It was some of everything at that place. I mean, real life like girl. It was everything from lifelike dolls to virtual reality to anything possible for stimulation. It was at this sexpo, and I think it covered a couple of days or whatever. But it was very interesting. So you had a lot of XXX stars that were there promoting their products and stuff. So some of them had lifelike likenesses of themselves, and you could buy that and stuff and such. So here he is himself. And so it was very interesting to live through Troy's pictures of the sexpo. Hey, Troy, good to see you.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Hey, glad to be back.
Glad you had some safe travels and stuff and such.
Oh, indeed, safe and stimulating.
Yeah, we're talking about the Sexpo that
Sure.
that you went to. We lived vicariously through the pictures and stuff that you posted. I thought it was interesting. Some of the stuff that was there. I haven't been to a Sexpo in many, many, many years. But
Wait,
it's
you been to one?
yeah.
Oh, see, I would have never figured.
I ain't been saved my whole life, Tootie. I went
Well,
to college.
I have not been to one.
Well, I mean, the videos and pictures that you saw on Facebook were the ones
That you were allowed to post.
that yeah, I was allowed because I got flagged a couple of times. One of the times Facebook flagged me, I you know, debated it. I was like, I protested it, and they allowed me to keep it up because they flagged me for inappropriate comment, and then I responded to one of the options saying, "Well, I've seen similar content
Right.
left up and posted," so they sent me a message back saying that they will allow it. But they were definitely much more risque and
Oh yeah.
larger things I could have posted. I tried my best to keep it safe, but
Yeah.
it was a stimulating event. I mean, I saw people there I knew. Um, I mean, honestly, that was my first time going to an event like that. I got invited to come to do media.
Right.
Um, and all in all, a couple of people have asked me, what it's like. I explained to people like, really, it's like walking into a enormous
Adult
sex shop,
superstore.
adult novelty store, except, you can see porn stars and webcam girls just walk around willy nilly like it's, you
Right.
know. So yeah, I mean, it's as long as you're not shy or conservative around, people who fuck for a living or, get naked on camera or strip or something else, then, I met some cool people. I definitely met a
Yeah.
lot of cool people.
Once you've been to one expo, you've been to them all. And by that, having a hospitality background, this is all stuff that I see. I used to do all the time. Like it's nothing when you do events. It's it's just basically this, and you plug in whether it's a sexpo, whether it's Comic-Con, whether it's this, whether it's that. It's just after a while you just get numb to it. It's just a check. It's just okay. Everybody show up, you pay your booth fee, we set up and da 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 da. So yeah, it's no big thing. It's you just deal with it. Somebody Alan says, have you been to Folsom Street Fair? Alan, what is that? Where is Folsom Street Fair? Because obviously I've never heard of it. But like I said, being in hospitality, you do all kinds of events and you see all kinds of stuff and you go to all kinds of expos. It's just part of the lifestyle. It's just part of your career. And then you just like Troy said, to me, going to stuff like that was nothing. It's just like being in hospitality and seeing celebrities staying at your hotel all the time. That's your job. You ain't got time to be fangirling out, freaking out. Your job is to take care of that guest, whether they make $100 million and you know about it, or they make 1,000 and you don't know how much they make. Everybody get treated the same way, so to speak. So San Francisco Public Sexpo. I have not been there. But it sounds really interesting and exciting. So yeah. But back to tonight's topic. So that's kind of Troy's escapades, and it was very stimulating and interesting seeing some of the stuff. And I was just like, oh yeah, I'm not surprised. You see some of it on TV. If you've seen Real Sex, the HBO series that they used to have back in the day, it's kind of like seeing that in real life. Someone going through those explorations, and I think T-Pain is it T-Pain the one that has that show about the most expensivest or whatever, and you just see what people spend money on. So on one show, somebody actually was spending like literally thousands of dollars on sex toys, on sex dolls, and virtual experiences and stuff. So
those toys can get very
extremely.
sophisticated. I mean, they range in prices because, again, it just depends on how much money you're willing to spend. Sometimes you're spending money based on the brand or whose mold it's made out of, or whatever the case may be. But I mean, they range. I mean, it's just like anything else. But I mean, I hope to do it again in 2022, I'm definitely going to apply to do media, and so I hope to be back, and hopefully more people be familiar with my face. I mean, for the most part, people were welcoming and receptive. I mean, you had a few people who were kind of standoffish, and
Right.
there were a couple of people who, they I guess because they didn't know me or it wasn't a big enough name, they didn't want to either let me interview them, or some of
Right.
them just were kind of stuck up,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest. But I think for the most part, I would say I had a great time, and I certainly recommend it to anybody.
Yeah. It's definitely an experience, and you get exposed to a lot of stuff. And at a lot of those shows, one of the things that you do see and experience are like different things, because they do sell, like, they do sell like sexual fantasies, and you might be like, okay, wait a minute, how do you sell a sexual fantasy? Listen, you have to know who that everybody that goes to a lot of these shows and stuff, some of those people are very sheltered. They need help in that area. Like most of the times, the people that are drawn are some of the people that are drawn to sexpos are people who really need help in that area. And so you might think it's kind of wild that people are buying into sexual fantasies and different things, but some people go so that they can get creative in the bedroom, right? But maybe you already have a sexual fantasy, but you don't feel comfortable sharing it with your partner.
I think also, with certain sexual fantasies, and I think the benefit and utility of sexpos like, Exotica, for some people, they need to see that there are other people that look just like them who are interested in this as well, because sometimes it can be a fantasy. You may feel like, it's just you, or you may feel like an outcast or a deviant. You go to certain events, you see, okay, no, there are people from the same walk of life as you, or same race, or same whatever, and they're interested in the same thing you're interested in. Because I've said that numerous times in ringside. I was like, no matter what you're interested in, there's other people out there who are interested in the same thing. You just got to find them. There's a
Yeah.
tribe for everybody. It doesn't matter if you are into feet, if you're into cosplay or BDSM, or being a cuckold. No matter what you're into and what you like, trust and believe there are others out there who are into the same thing. You just got to get out there and find your tribe.
Right.
But the biggest thing is you have to get out there.
Yeah. I think that's part of the scary part that some people are afraid to do, even in the confines of your bedroom. And that's really like what I want to really get into tonight. Your bedroom is supposed to be a safe space for you and your partner to do whatever you want to do. Your bed, that's your business. Like, don't nobody need to know what you do. We live in a time where everybody feel like everything got to be publicized. It don't. What's going on in your bedroom is your business. I think that,
Right.
the concern that some people have about fantasies is that, some people feel like they're, some sexual fantasies are dark, they lead down a wrong path, or they have misperceptions of what a sexual fantasy is, right? But there's, like you said, Troy, there's no one size fits all. It might be something as simple as a sexual fantasy around food. Like, some people literally have a fantasy around food, or like the article that you posted in Ringside this week about some of the top 10 or 12 male fantasies, right? They lost me at the body fluids. I'm sorry.
Well, I
You
mean,
just lost me at the body fluids.
that was something that came up because I even, came across that even at Exotica, because like you said, it doesn't matter if your fetish is food or defecation. There are people out there, like, even with that, and I think we mentioned the name of it. There literally are people, men, women, black, white, who seriously are into being defecated on.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
for
like it's
me,
a fantasy around feces. How do you have a fantasy around feces? Like,
I
I
don't
can't.
get it. I don't get it one bit. I'm like, I think it's gross, but at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. If you are into it and you happen to find a man or woman or whatever that's into it, I say link up and barbecue.
It's called
Have
scat. I think Alan said it's called scat.
Yeah,
Whatever it
maybe
is.
that's it. But no,
Yeah.
trust me, there were definitely people there who talked about it on their webcam, who blogged about how they want to find someone to urinate on them, to defecate on them, to any kind
Right.
of body fluid you can think of. There are people like, I want that on me. And I'm like, who am I to judge?
That's a
I'm
bit
like,
much. I remember when golden shower, I was in college when people were talking about golden showers, and that was a big thing. And if you don't have golden showers, it's obviously somebody urinating on you. And I just was like, who raised y'all? Like, why is this a thing? Like, that's not something that goes on another human being. Like, where do you go in your mind that you feel like this is attractive? Because I don't want it touching me in this mind. Like, I don't. How do you want it on somebody else? You know, and it's just kind of like I've seen stuff online where people are into like blood and they're trying to drink blood and they want blood on them because they're trying to live longer and all this weird stuff. But it exists, and like you said, you got to find your tribe. But how do you? Yeah, there are fetishes that are part of fantasy. Some people they build full on fantasies around how they can satisfy these fetishes that they have. And I think that sometimes some people, they can go a little bit far, but some fantasies are too kinky for other people, you know. And
yeah,
how do
you got to find, you got to, you know, take your own temperature and figure out what's too hot and what's too cold for you. Speaking of scat, I think the first time I heard of an example, like the very, very first time I heard of that was, and I'm pretty sure everyone here is old enough to remember Biggie Smalls' Life After Death CD when there was an interlude, and Biggie Smalls was, you know, it was an interlude where Biggie was telling his friends how he met up with a girl and the girl asked him to shit on her. Now, mind you, this is, you know, Ready to Die. This was 1997. I was a senior in high school on my way to college. And Biggie is doing an interlude talking about meeting a groupie or meeting some chick after a show that wanted him to squat over her and shit on her. And even back then, my young innocent ears, I'm, you know, 17 years old. I'm like, who the hell would want somebody to do something like that? I don't care how fine a woman is. You
right?
could be a perfect 10. No, you keep that. There's only one place that belongs, and that's in the
Right.
bathroom, not
I
on
don't
me.
see how I don't see how that I couldn't make that a fantasy in any regard
I
in
couldn't
any
either.
context. I really don't. I'm gonna go to Horace because
Wait, what?
not on that, but
In my face.
Awesome transition.
Damn.
but I mean, have you ever had a fantasy go wrong? You know what I mean? Like, have you ever had an experience where you had a fantasy go wrong, or you know, there was a level of discomfort either from you or her, you know, during the fantasy, and you actually had to stop and have a conversation, you know, to discuss, or you know what I'm saying, to not ruin the moment.
Yeah, but I would have to tell that story off camera.
Oh God.
And it was simply because that person didn't say they had like a medical condition. So, so to be short, they went unconscious for a minute. And I'm thinking, egotistically, you know, as a young brother trait, I'm thinking I didn't really kill somebody. So, yeah, bro, they went out for a minute. I'm like, I know I'm good, but I ain't killing nobody. So, but there was a conversation of trying something,
Right.
and I think that might have traumatized me because I'm not a freak. I have never been to none of these shows. I don't think I had that in me. I feel like I'm a porn star, but I don't feel like I have that level of different fetishes and stuff like that. And I think I want to, before we go later, I want to bring up the shows like what Trey said, where Biggie was talking about defecating. All of us was like, what? Wow, that's a wild story. But look, I was just watching a show tonight that came on Harlem, and I'm seeing how people are celebrating their sexual freedom and you know stuff. And it's almost like you hear something, and then you'll next thing I know, it's in another group chat, and so It's a different era now. You know what I mean? So lets me know either I'm old or I just ain't got it. Yeah,
Can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
I also, you know, I think it's important that people keep in mind that, you know, no matter what you're into, somebody else is going to think it's weird or perverted.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us are into things sexually that, trust me, somebody either to the left of us or the right of us may think, you know, that's deviant. or, wrong or unholy or perverted. Because fact of the matter is subjective, because think about it. I mean, again, showing our age again, and I've said this before on the show, growing up in the 90s, when I was in school, it was fighting words for a man to accuse another man of eating pussy. That was something
Beat
I
up.
remember being in school, another man say, nigga, I heard you eat pussy. Them niggas gonna fight because that's
Right.
insulting. This was in the mid 90s,
Cheating.
because eating pussy back then was considered,
Cheating.
that's too deviant. Fast forward to 2021, nigga, if you ain't eating pussy, you out the boys club. I mean, it's like what man around you don't eat pussy? So
Right.
it goes to show how things can change over time. Like, I've said this in ringside, today it's, controversial to talk about tossing salad. Give it another 10 years, it's gonna be mainstream to toss salad.
Right.
The show I just saw today. I just saw a show with it. So it's something different.
Yeah. So
Well, now,
Yeah.
no, I mean, this was in the 90s, and I had an ex who wanted to try fantasy, and I didn't mind trying it until we got to the handcuffs part. But we talked about it before we actually started. And we created a safe word, right? So it was at any given time, if I felt too uncomfortable, I could use a safe word and we would stop. And so I think that when it comes to trying out fantasies or whatever, again, it's between you and that person. But I think that if it just really depends, because you have to know the other person's comfort zone and comfort level with you, and what you want to try and what you don't want to try. It might sound, in theory, it might sound like the sexiest thing, but in
with the
another, like,
application,
it's totally different when you actually do it. I'm grateful that when I got anxious and uncomfortable and I used the safe word, that he actually stopped. But what if he hadn't stopped? It could have turned into a totally different situation. And so I think that sometimes you have to have those have those conversations. But I think it also boils down to knowing your partner. I think some people do like having some people's sexual fantasies aren't necessarily with their partner. They just like to have sexual fantasies with random people, because they feel like the anonymity of having sex with somebody that you don't know, that they're not going to judge me for this is too freaky. You know what I mean? So they're not going to judge me, versus trying a fantasy with somebody that you're close and you're intimate with. You know what I mean?
Also, based on what you said, Dr. H, it's almost like, and if I'm messing it up, I apologize. Almost like, what's that, the Madonna horror syndrome? Because, a lot of guys, and I'm guilty of this as well, a lot of guys will admit, like, there's certain fantasies we may want to do. We don't want to do it with someone we love and care about,
Right.
but we want to do it with someone that, a young lady we may think is disposable, or, just for sex, and that's it. Like, it's like, okay, this freak over here, I may want to do A, B, and C to her and X, Y, and Z, but to the woman who is the mother of my children, like, oh no, I don't want to do that to her.
Right.
I don't want to.
It's a different respect level. Yeah.
It's a different respect level. But I think when you're in a relationship or married, you need to be with someone, first and foremost, you feel is not going to judge you.
Right.
Because I think that it's good to have that conversation where you can delineate between, certain acts. This is a non-negotiable. We're not going to do it, versus other things like I'm flexible.
Right.
Because like anybody who's been in a long-term relationship or even married will tell you, sex gonna get monotonous. It's gonna get routine.
We learned that from Will and Jada.
Yeah, I mean, anybody, I can speak from experience. If you're with the same person for years, decades and decades, the sex can get monotonous. So I do,
right.
I don't like using, spice it up, because that's so cliche. But you better, push some boundaries, learn some things about yourself. Like I said,
right.
For me, I can tell, the woman, I can say, look, these things never, not a million years, but these other things, maybe, on the right night, I may be a little flexible, maybe a little amenable to these things, but have that conversation with the one you with. Again, communication.
Yeah. Horace, where do you draw the line on fantasies? on sexual fantasies?
Where do I draw the line? I am a caterer, so I'm always into pleasing my mate, but as long as it is some of the things, well, it was no defecation, that's for sure. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so I guess because we've done so much for so long, like I grew up in a different era,
Right.
so I cannot. That's probably gonna be one of those ones. I'm not on the R. Kelly level, you know.
Right. Me either.
And to each his own. I can't do tossing salad, so I'm pretty boring.
Right. I think a good bit of us, are in that same vein of this isn't like we cross the line on body fluids. You know what I mean? Like spitting in the mouth or spitting on the body. You know, that kind of stuff is kind of maybe a little like off kilter. But I think that when we start talking about fantasies, you know, in some context, you think about, you know, somebody role playing or whatever, in different contexts. And I do think that it does matter if you're a pleaser. But I want to talk about something that Troy was saying about the difference between respect levels, of whether or not, you know, what at what point do you respect your partner? You know what I mean? And where are you more fluid with your fantasies and things you will do versus what you won't do, depending on the person that you're doing it with, you know? So is it somebody that I love, that I care about, versus some random, you know what I mean? Go ahead, Horace.
I want to ask Troy, what is this question to you and Troy? Is this something that when you're in a relationship, like you have to take an obligation to satisfy your partner? I knew a couple, and they were both of my friends, and that was a situation they had. She liked to do something, you know, and he wouldn't indulge. You know what I mean? He wouldn't do it because that was his. You know, he saw, you know, cat kids together, so that thing of not wanting to do stuff with her, but he was into it. He just couldn't do it with her, and it later ended up being a issue where I had them separate for a long time. So it's almost I stayed impartial on it because who am I to tell you what's what?
Right.
But in my mind, I'm thinking like, if you're in a relationship, do you have a responsibility to you know honor the things that your person's into?
Mm.
You know, I guess without, you know, overextending my brain and thinking about that, I feel like um, the satisfaction of your mate should be priority, but not to the sacrifice of your own personal dignity
Right.
and respect. Because the fact of the matter is, you know, if I like a woman enough to make her my woman or my wife, then her satisfaction is paramount. You know, it's important to me. Now,
Right.
is it so important to the point where I will, you know, compromise my own self-respect? I'm like, no, okay, we gotta pump the brakes at this point. And we don't have to compromise and figure out, okay, how can I please you, but still look myself in the mirror the next morning? And
Right.
still,
Mm.
you know, this, so for me, that's the dividing line. Like, no, trust, you know, I'm not a selfish lover. Um, you know, her nut matters just as much as mine. But if you ask me to do something that is morally, I think morally corrupt, or I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna feel the same way about myself if I do this for you, then that's when we need to have a sidebar and, you know, lay out some other options.
Right. I want to get to Willie's
Just my
question
opinion.
that I have on the screen. And I think this is really interesting. And I think that this can go down a very interesting road. Can you over freak your partner to the point to where you've done everything, so you test a threesome and go look for more stimulation?
Well, say that. Can you
Can
over
you
freak your
over
partner to
freak
the
your
point?
partner to the point to where you've done everything, so you test a threesome and go look for more stimulation?
You know, if you with someone and you guys have gone down the entire alphabet, um, don't make, in terms of looking outside, don't make a move until you consult with your partner, because at that point you just, now you're cheating. You know, there, you do have a lot of couples who, you know, whether it be the man or the woman, one of them is hoping that the other is open to an open marriage or swinging. They may not feel comfortable. They may not want to. They may feel like, okay, my partner's going to judge me if I happen to bring up, hey, how about
Right.
we swing, or how about we open up this marriage? You have some people who want to do it, they're just afraid to. But
And they're looking for that. They're looking for that one reason, that open door, that avenue, and then it could spiral. And it sounds like, if you, like Alan said it earlier, freak levels should match. And I think that what you're saying is possibility that you outgrow your partner sexually. At what point, what do you do when you outgrow your partner sexually? And how do you, like you said earlier, instead of saying like spice it up, but you really do have to figure out other ways to make it work, because you've been with somebody for an extended period of time, and y'all hitting, like y'all at it like jackrabbits, y'all just going at it. You're gonna eventually run out of excitement. You're gonna run out of energy. You're gonna run out of fantasies. You're gonna run out of fetishes. You're gonna run out of things to please yourself in that, to please each other or yourself in that context. So what do? You know what I mean? So I think that you have to, one, you got to pace yourself, but two, again, we talk about dating at your level. At the same time, dating at your level also means your sexual compatibility. Let's be real here. But you got to have those conversations and think about long term. If we keep at this pace, long term, are we gonna tap out at some point? And if we quote unquote tap out at that point, where do we go from here? Like, where do we have room for anything else? And I think that the point of sexual fantasies is to help, make it interesting and exciting so that you don't tap out too soon, but you always have something, more exciting to look forward to. But I think that, sometimes fantasies push the boundaries. You keep going and you keep going, but you have to find out for yourself, between you and your partner, where that boundary is, Horace.
Nah, I was saying I've grown. I've put my ego aside over the years, and I've matured a lot. The 30-year-old me was like, a chick bringing toys in the bedroom. What? I'm the greatest show on earth. And then I got a little older. Say, hey, if this gonna get us where we need to go, I'm all for it. So,
right.
And I'm gonna sit back and watch it go as well. So listen, that's learning and growing, because I've seen some stuff like, okay, listen, thank you for this show. Thank you for hey, you happy, I'm happy. So that takes a lot of maturity and putting your ego to the side. It's all about making them happy. But the 30-year-old me, the 18 to 30-year-old me, nah, it's an insult. But I learned, humble myself. Hey, bring
I
the Jackhammer 3000, all of that.
Yeah. You do learn. You live and you learn. And like you said, it's about growth and maturity. And I think that one of the things we don't do, especially in our community, is have conversations like this around talking about being open and talking about sexuality and sex and what happens in and out of the bedroom. But more importantly, the things that affect, listen, bedroom activity affects your relationship. Let's not sit here and act like it don't, because it does. And at the end of the day, it's more than just, that orgasm. It's all kinds, and Troy will tell you, there's all kinds of endorphins and all these things that are released to help, reduce stress. It's like this, there is science, there's evidence behind the importance of, like, it's scientific proof that frequent sex, prolongs, lengthens your life. It does all of these different things.
Yeah.
And so there's benefits obviously to it, but you can't sit here and bury your head in the sand and act like, oh, okay, like, Horace was saying, I'm the greatest showman on earth. You think you're having a good time, but there's documented proof of women faking orgasms so good that you think she done finished and she ain't, or vice versa. So it's like, you got to have that connection with your mate, and you got to know when your mate is tapped out. Like, when is this fantasy no longer satisfying your mate? You know what I mean? And it's all about you. You're missing the whole point of having fantasies. The whole point is for both of you to enjoy the fantasy and not just one person. What happens when only one of you is into the fantasy?
Yeah. I mean, if you're with someone, if you're in a relationship or marriage that you actually want to keep and you value, first and foremost, realize no one person's nut is more important than the other. Right. As a man, it doesn't matter if we share bills. It doesn't matter if I'm paying all the bills. I can't, beat my chest and say it's more important that I nut than you. My nut is important. Yours, if you get it, you get it. If not, oh well. Like, no, it's like sex should be beneficial, exciting, and pleasurable for both people involved. Right. And again, it's okay if you have a sexual fantasy that you have yet to mention to your partner. Hopefully you're with someone who won't judge you and who, you feel comfortable, you can say, hey, you know, can we talk? Can I just want to, you know, talk to you about, you know, some things that have been on my mind, some things that I'm interested in trying, and just want to see if you're open to it, you know.
Right.
But yeah, it's, again, I do feel like, look, if we at 50, 60, you know, it may happen, because after a while, it's like, look, I'm tired of missionary. I'm tired of that we go through the same positions in the same way.
Right.
I'm like, okay, let's do something.
Right. Yeah. I think that, I mean, what you said hit it on the head. It's about communication. And if you have a partner that is trying to force a sexual fantasy on you, because that happens, you know, you have a decision to make. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's your comfort zone with staying with someone who would try to force a sexual fantasy on you? Because at that point, to me, that communicates something different. It communicates that now there is a lack of boundaries and respect and honor in the relationship. Like, where did it go? Where did we go wrong now that we are at this place where we're forcing sexual fantasies instead of coming together and agreeing on it?
Well, man, again, it does boil down to respect, because, you know, in Ringside, we posted articles. There have been posts where, you know, say, for instance, you have women out there who really are participating in three-ways and threesomes, not because they want to, just because they don't want to lose their man.
Right.
You know, they feel like, okay, I have to give him this fantasy, otherwise he won't be, you know, interested in staying with me. Or women, you know, someone made that observation. One of the group members posted a video about a man who had like 3 wives, and people were making an observation. One of them wives really don't look like she's into it.
Right.
You know,
look very uncomfortable.
Look very uncomfortable. What do you do? It's like, well, you know, if it's to the point where, you know, you recognize that I'm uncomfortable, I don't like this, but, you know, my spouse, this is their fantasy, then you already fucking up.
Right.
You've already compromised yourself, shorty, because you giving someone, you're placing their comfort levels substantially over yours.
Right.
And now they happy, they got a big old Kool-Aid grin on their face, and you around here just tolerating it.
Miserable.
So miserable giving them a fantasy,
right.
But deep down you have to go to your happy place, or you have to mentally, you know, detach yourself just to get through this so they can be happy without giving consideration to your own happiness. That's already a recipe for disaster.
I can just imagine the amount of anxiety that could cause, because now you're talking about because a good bit of sex is mental. So I'm already in a different place mentally, trying to enjoy all that I can in this moment, you know, in this moment of whatever. And it's like, you know, it's a lot. It's really a lot. So I think that, you know, this is why conversations like this are important, because you have to know that there are risks to fulfilling fantasies and stuff like that. Like, there are risks, and it's like, how much of you are you willing to sacrifice to fulfill these fantasies at your expense? You know what I mean? Again, it's not, I mean, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Troy, on what's the level of respect do you have for this other person that you're with? Is it, okay, this is a fantasy I'm fulfilling with somebody that I don't really care about, it's just a jump off, versus, you know, a fantasy that I would like to fulfill with someone that my partner that I love, this person that I care about, that I genuinely am building a life with. And again, what we do in our bedroom is for us, but it's to take us to another level. And you really got to think about that, you know. Now, you know, in whatever context that looks like, that's between you and that person. But I agree with you that you shouldn't be sacrificing your peace of mind and your pleasure and your moment in that bedroom just to keep somebody, because who's to say that's going to work? Because that doesn't always work. Sometimes you can get in a threesome just to satisfy that other person and you still lose them. And
who's to say that's going to be the last time you have to do it?
Because every time you compromise on a fantasy, please be prepared to compromise on another level, because they're always going to push the boundaries. There's always going to be something that pushes the boundaries to see just how much you're willing to compromise on for the sake of this other person. Because now in their mind is, they'll do anything for me. They'll do anything for me. Now you've gone from, you know, we're stimulating each other to manipulation. And that's the situation.
I mean, you have, and I hate the fact that you have so many people out there in relationships and marriages who are going through that right now. I mean, there may be people watching this who, trying to muster up the courage to tell their partner, like, look, I'm really not into this.
Right.
You're into it, but this really doesn't do anything for me, or I feel disrespected, or whatever. There are people out there who are trying to figure out, how can I communicate and convey to my partner that this fantasy of theirs, it ain't doing nothing for me.
This ain't it. Yeah, this ain't it.
But I do want to say something. I want to piggyback off of what you said earlier in the show. Fortunately, unfortunately, however people choose to perceive it, people do overshare on social media.
Ooh.
And oftentimes people get to the point where they may feel like whatever they're into in the bedroom, they need to tell people, or they need to volunteer that information, or they need to sign up and let people know, hey, I do this in the bedroom, FYI. And people need to understand you and your partner, that's the only nut that matters. If you're into something and you're afraid of opinions or how other people perceive you, like, look, guess what? You don't have to share it.
Right.
What you and your partner or partners do in the bedroom, doesn't matter how freaky or whatever you want to call it, you can keep that between y'all. Because you mess around and you want to go on social media and tell people, hey, I like doing this. And then you want to get mad when people chew you up and spit you out and tell you that you a freak, or you ain't saved, or that's gay, or that's whatever. It's like you probably had no business putting it on social media to begin with.
Unless that actually is your fantasy. Because some
people are into fantasy, go for it.
Yeah, and some people are into exhibitionism, and that's and they feel like that post-coital, social media conversation or whatever is it. You see Cardi B all the time talking about, oh, I just feel like I want to suck your right now. Like, she be on live like, oh, I just want to, like, who cares? And at the same time, that offset is like, oh, baby, I want you to suck my right now. Okay, like they both feel like it's necessary to put that on social media. So I think that it is definitely a comfort level. But some people, if that's your thing, but be ready for whatever comes, because you put it out there. Now people have carte blanche to weigh in.
Yeah, be ready for judgment.
Right.
Be ready for judgment, criticism, everything.
Yeah.
No, I was saying I've seen that backfire on somebody where they used to do the Facebook videos with their relationship with their partner.
Right.
And then they broke up. Everybody was at her. And she couldn't get past that label. And everyone was at her for what? Because I seen what you did in them videos.
Right.
And even though she was in a relationship, one track mind, everybody was like, a ton of guys were at her for that.
Yeah.
For that thing. But I will say that I think people undersell how much the physical aspect of a relationship is. Like, if there's certain things to handle that now, you don't want to get too far down the road and realize that you can't keep up or you can't satisfy a person.
Right.
You love somebody, but if you cannot satisfy them, you got to be real and know at some point you just the land. I've had a friend that was older guy, and I said, don't do it dating a very, very younger girl. And they were so happy until that engine started blowing on them. And, there's like a 13-year difference, and he couldn't keep up. My generation compared to the younger girls and what she into, he couldn't keep up. He lost her.
Yeah. I have a colleague who married a church girl, and the comment to me was, I thought she was a freak. How? How, sir? How? What showed you? What evidence was there to convince you that she would be a freak? What was there to
the
prove
assumption? Some people assume preachers' kids, or I have seen that. I mean, it's no guarantee. You can't generalize or assume. Have I seen that? Absolutely. I have definitely seen people who grew up sheltered or whatever, and then you get them in the bedroom, they just let loose. They become the biggest porn stars. So I think for him, he was wrong to make that leap of faith, especially something like marriage.
Right.
based on that assumption. I'm not mad at him for wanting to explore and see if the stereotype is true, but to the point where you get married before you and actually confirm it, that was your fuck up.
Right. Like, if you're having conversation with this person and y'all dating and sex never comes, or when it comes up, the subject is changed, or they clam up, or they give hints that it's an uncomfortable subject for them, ain't no freaking them. I'm sorry. Like, that's not anything revealing to you that this person is finna do spinning flips in the bedroom with you.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. At all. And so, you learn the hard way sometimes. I don't know. I think that, you got to know, you can't be afraid to have conversations about, what your needs are. I think that people need to, this came up in Ringside, I think it was today, that somebody made a comment about counseling and therapy. And I think that whether you're married or dating, if you're seriously dating somebody, yeah, you need to do couples. I think couples therapy is for not just for married people, but if you expect to have a long-term relationship with somebody, couples therapy is not a bad way to go. And you need to talk about sex, especially if that's an issue for you, or possibly down the road, because you might have to find out that you got to pop some little blue or green pills. How does your partner feel about that, to be able to keep up? Like, why did the dude not pop them little green blue pills, or is to keep up with that little young thing? 13-year difference, sir. You gonna have to pop some pills.
He just delaying and edible. I done known a couple of people. I hate to say it, hey, when they pass, I'm like, I know what killed them. Listen, Trey, people won't take the required percentages. I lost somebody I knew who took one appeal. Like, you can take this, but they go overboard. It's just something else, they go overboard. And I know 2 people that got messed up from taking Viagra. I'm talking to older people, like, nah, man, you gotta. Nah.
Yeah, I mean, it gets to a certain point. You may have to resort to the Cialis or the Viagra if you're not, taking care of yourself. Again, for me, I've recently, I'm tiptoeing in veganism right now. Because I've definitely have examples in my life from work and frat of people who explain, and they go down the list of all the benefits of veganism, all the health benefits.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, let me try. I'm 42 years old. I can't eat the same way I did when I was 22. So let me try.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things. It's like, okay, I've had men older than me say, well, if you correct your diet, you won't need the blue pill. You won't need that.
Right.
You can maintain it. You can
yeah, there are health benefits. And listen, when they say you are what you eat, what you put in your body is a reflection on the outside. It matters. It matters. So I agree. I think that Dr. Sebi said everything holistic. You can fix anything in your body through holistic means if you do the work. Horace?
Sure. Before we go, I was in a group, and I don't know where. I think it was Facebook, Instagram, and we were talking because I like to go in there and say what I need to say. And we were going back and forth, but it was about accountability. It was about relationships and whatnot. And this woman on there, and tagged her friend, is a woman in there and looked gorgeous, claimed to be a virgin at 35 years old. And that blew me away. And I knew somebody else when I was in, I think I was in Vegas. Like, I knew somebody else. I'm like, how is that possible? Like, to be like, oh man, like that got to be like a ringside topic at some point. Like 35, like I salute you, but I just can't even imagine 35, like age 35. And I knew somebody, a doctor, I think she was around that age, woman, she was a virgin. I was like, man, bro, my mind couldn't just grasp it, like, for real.
It's possible. There are some out there.
But I just would like to just interview her, like, find her for trade, like, interview her, like, the discipline. Because with a man, like, listen, I try not to have sex. It gets to a point when you're a young man where you ain't gonna sleep. That thing is so hard. You
can't sleep on your stomach.
Bruh, come on, man. Like, it hunts us. Once at some point your body say, nah, it's time. Bro, so I don't know what it's like for women, but I was like, man.
I mean, you're gonna have some people. I'm not saying that I haven't met some grown ass, damn near 40-year-old virgins, because some people, for them, I have most certainly met women. I don't think I met any men who admitted it. I've certainly met women who's like, no, I'm waiting till marriage. And at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? I can't not respect that. I'm like, that, it's their belief system. It's their religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it. Some people are like, look, until I get married, I'm not going, my religion stipulates that sex is reserved for your spouse. And it's like, at that point, what can you do? What can you say? I'm like, okay, you certainly have more willpower than I would say the average person, but I can't help it.
Also, you don't miss what you haven't had either.
Right.
So if you've not experienced.
Once you pop the top on this bubbly as a young man, it changes your life forever. It takes over your life. You didn't even know what you was missing. After that moment, as a young man, listen, I was 18. After that, bro, it took a while to bring that back in. Y'all don't understand. Women,
I believe it. No, I believe it. I believe it. I think that's why people, so I think that's why some people have different responses to it. Some people go really, especially if that first experience is like, oh my God, like a really good experience. It's like you said, it's hard to rein in, and then you go down this road of fantasies and exploration and all this other kind of stuff, and you don't know when to stop. Versus you don't know, you can't miss what you've never had. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what it is.
I apologize to my first years later, Troy.
Oh my God.
Troy, I was like, yeah, I don't know how you enjoyed this, but I apologize to about 2 years later, like.
Hold on 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was just real, but that was when I was telling you about my dad and whatnot, like the whole condom thing. Hey, how you put on the condom? An asshole can put on the condom. Like,
right.
Okay, so you're not gonna teach me? Okay. Went through 3 condoms in like 30 seconds. I'm talking about, and I was looking at her like I done came too far not to go there.
Right.
And the next day, my mom had to wake me up. I slept like a bear. Like I went home. I don't even know how I drove home, but I slept like a bear.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's life.
That could be a movie, man, a book. Your first time, like, boy, this a hell of an experience, a transformation with the male body.
No, look, I think everybody, my first time was so stereotypically Memphis. I'm proud of it. I'm proud, lasted about 10 seconds, but I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I would explain to anybody, because it's funny. I tell people I lost my virginity in the back of an abandoned rib shack. I'm like, you can't get any more Memphis than that. Like I said, it lasted about 10 seconds, but I'm like, man, I'm like Horace. I went home and I slept. I probably hibernated for 3 days. It was that
man. Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time I had actual intercourse. The first time I had a nut was through oral sex, and I'm just like, I was thinking about this one day. No one ever told you the word is coming. I think for me, I just said it. When I felt that eruption, I just said, I'm coming. No one taught me that word. No one said,
right.
I just felt something was about to pop out of my body.
Right.
And yeah. So no, everybody, that first time, the sleep is amazing.
Yeah, it's life changing.
Oh, definitely life changing. I don't know where she is. I hope she's okay. She may be married with children, something like that. But yeah, I'll never forget her.
Yeah, for real. Sorry, Dr. H, you can close. My bad.
No, it's okay. This is how our after dark conversations go. We always tend to veer a little off, and that's all right. But tonight we talked about sexual fantasies and the importance of having those conversations with your mate, and if you ever are uncomfortable at any given moment with that, or like I think whose question was that, Willie's question about basically out freaking your partner, over freaking your partner, because there will come a time you've been with the same person for a long time, where it does seem to get monotonous. It does seem to get a little boring, because you outpace them, and now it's kind of like it's not exciting for you, anymore. You got to feel like you're compromising on your pleasure in the bedroom, then something is wrong, and there's a deeper issue that y'all got to talk about, or you're gonna end up in a bigger problem than you anticipated. You do have to think more long term when it comes to your bedroom. But your bedroom issues are your bedroom issues, and your bedroom fantasies and the things that you do in your bedroom is between you and that other person. Like, the internet and your friends don't need to know.
They don't need to know.
The more people that know, that's not gonna help the issues that you might end up having in your bedroom.
Might get back though.
Huh?
You might get a back though. Somebody might sneak in your back though. You talking too much.
Right, because you don't know. Like, you're
share.
creating opportunities for somebody to come in and say, hey, your man ain't pleasing you, I got you, or your woman ain't pleasing you, I got you. Like, you loose lips sink ships. Jesse Smollett just learned that he just learned that.
The
5 counts to 6. So
Sure.
I'm just saying, 5 out of 6 counts. You got to know when to keep your mouth shut and let it ride. And the only person that needs to know is the person that you're with. You know what I mean? And that's where you have your conversations. But I do think that, there's nothing wrong with having sexual fantasies. That's between you and your partner. And if you with somebody that's judging you for your sexual fantasies, you might need to reevaluate that, or y'all need to go to counseling, because you should be with somebody that's not judging you. They should care about you. If you feel like they're looking at you a different way, or they're judging you, that's a different conversation. Like, why are you judging me for this? Why do you feel differently about me? Because this is what I want to do, to bring us pleasure in the bedroom, versus, because it's not just me, it's us. And so I think that you need to talk about that, and it's a more mature conversation, like we said. Now, listen, if your fantasy is out there, you over here talking about scatting and golden showers and all of that, that's a different situation. And I ain't gonna judge it, but I am gonna look at you cross-eyed. And that's a we ain't finna be together no more situation. But everybody has something that they enjoy. You got to find your match. And if you're with someone that is a match, they're not gonna judge you. They're not gonna look at you sideways, because you parallel. Y'all riding this thing together. Now, if you got a 13, 15, 20 year difference, age difference, you might need to pop some pills
I can't even think about that. I cannot imagine damn near 20-year age difference in a young lady I'm with, and I'm like, you're gonna kill yourself trying to keep up.
Right.
It happens all the time. People do it all the
time. That's on some color purple. He died on top of me. So I'm like, look, come on now.
So you were 20, you could do 3, 4, maybe 5 rounds.
Yeah,
you got that in her. He ain't got that.
Yeah.
Like, no, like one time, I can give you one time, maybe 2. Then after that, I'm going to the kitchen and microwave a Hot Pocket and a Capri Sun, and I'm like, that's it.
Right.
Like, that's it. We gonna try again tomorrow.
Huddle.
After a while, it's like, no, we gonna sit and watch some Practical Jokers, or we gonna watch some Comedy Central, but
some Netflix or something.
Netflix something. We can watch. We can watch Family Guy for the rest of them. But I'm like, that's it. I'm like, you talking about, we ain't done yet. We've only done it 2 times. I'm like, bitch, I'm tired.
Right.
But again, the monotony that can happen. It's like, when it gets to the point where, and this does, it can happen when sex becomes a chore.
Yeah.
That's when when you sit up there and you try to strategize and think about how you can avoid sex because you're tired.
Right.
You don't feel like it. It's like, okay, now we got a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
But
that's the deal.
That's all I got.
Thank y'all so much for joining us on this After Dark show. We'll catch y'all again in a couple weeks. If not, we'll see y'all in 2022. Have a good night, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right.